Kill Biters for Resources is a Factorio mod that replaces the traditional ore patches with biter bases. The biters, worms, and nests drop ore when they die, and that's how you get ore. Regular biters and biter expansions are, thankfully, disabled. This may remind you of alien artifacts, which used to exist in older versions of the game, but were removed, probably because of how difficult they were to automate. Though in that case, only the nests drop resources, whereas here, all biter-related things drop resources, so you can, at least theoretically, automate things. This mod was originally made for Factorio speedrunner and YouTuber AntiElitz for a multiplayer event he hosted. And I thought it looked interesting, and I wanted to try it for myself. So I turned to the goons of SomethingAwful for some help, as the mod is balanced, if you can call it that, around a large multiplayer game. So I installed the mod and gathered some helpers. The first random map looked fine, so I went with that and started the game. Fortunately, rocks and trees were not biterified, so we start by mining those. Unfortunately, this last rock was well defended, and a stream of copper biters run down to greet us. This is absolutely not going to be a deathless run. Somehow they managed to kill all three of us. And even though I respawn, I'm not able to stop them from destroying our spaceship wreckage I had wanted to keep. Someone tries again to mine the rock. And the result is more death. Like geological time, I like to think of this run as having certain time periods. We start out in the Fish Age of the Axe era, with only small biters. We get a lab up, but we have a big problem. One firearm magazine, or yellow ammo, holds 10 bullets and requires 4 iron plates to make, which is 4 iron ore. Each biter drops a mere 1 to 3 ore each. An unupgraded bullet from a pistol does 5 damage. A small biter has 15 health, which means one magazine can kill a little more than 3 biters. But it takes about 2 biters to make one magazine. And this doesn't even include fuel costs, since farming coal to smelt the ore also requires some bullets as well. Plus, you need even more farming copper ore and stone. Of course, we get the free 10 ammo from respawning, but it's rather boring to farm, it doesn't scale, and I really want our factory running sustainably on the bodies of our enemies, not ours. And so we enter the turret era, and into the punch age. So called because the majority of our farming is still done by hand, and will be for quite a while. We set up a turret so we can have something resembling automation. The turrets have the additional benefit that any damage upgrades we research will be applied to them twice, which will help with reducing the iron spent on farming if we use bullets. Look at that! More automation doesn't actually help all that much at this point, but it makes me feel like we're making progress. And I even add a little belt to theoretically bring ore back to the base. At this point in the game, almost every building, and certainly every piece of belt, is very expensive for us. Even this tiny smelting stack took a lot of farming to make. But little by little, the base starts to come together. With the manpower we have and no damage upgrades yet, it's still better to convert fish into ore rather than bullets. So we take down the turret and go back to punching. I finally get enough bits of belt to bring the belt all the way up kind of close to the nest. So now I can continuously send ore back to the base, either by dropping it onto the belt myself, or killing biters near the belt. If they die in the right spot, the ore will simply spawn right on top of the belt. It doesn't actually help that much, but automation. And now we have an assembler, so we can do some actual automation. A couple of hours into the run, we finally have our first assembler assembling. It is now automating automation science for us. I remember too late that I meant to get more fish. It's looking really bad, so I try and run and try to thin them out in the forest. I just end up bringing them to one of my helpers, who also tries to run away and hide in the forest. One of them starts attacking our radar. Don't they know how expensive those are right now? This is how we spend most of our time at this point. Run up to the nests, attract a group of biters, beat them down with our pickaxes while riding the belt and stuffing fish in our mouths, then run up and grab some more. It looks like there's a stone patch in the mixed mining area, but upon closer inspection, it seems the actual nests are all copper or iron, and the only stone are the 2 stoneworms. But that should be fine. At this point we don't really need a lot of stone, and what stone we do need or want we can get from rocks on the map. By the time we need any large quantities of stone, we'll surely have found a new stone biter base. Annoyingly, they like to attack the belt sometimes. Also, I died again. Hooray! We've automated steel. Kind of. And we've unlocked the heavy armor technology. Once we get heavy armors, we'll be able to greatly reduce the amount of damage we take, which should save on a lot of fish. Speaking of, we also spent a lot of time mining fish. The problem is they don't respawn, so you always have to travel farther and farther out to get more. I finally get heavy armor. You can see how much less damage the biters do. And because the fish all heal the same, this dramatically reduces the amount of fish that we need while farming. I set up a somewhat optimistic electronic circuit assembler so that I can get some repair packs going. This will save us some resources since they cost less than replacing the belts. I also set up our first firearm magazine automation. We set up the turrets again. This time they're here to stay. They even get a lovely pipe wall. There's an ammo belt too, to keep them stocked on bullets at all times. I start constructing a belt blanket to bring the dropped ore back into the base automatically. Finally, actually automated mining. If you can call it mining. We managed to get 4 players playing simultaneously. Nowhere near the numbers the mod was balanced around, but each player helped tremendously. I decided the worms existing bothered me, so I tried to take them out. Unfortunately, they're a lot better at killing me than I am them. Worms are a bit annoying. They have quite a bit of range, especially the bigger ones. They can attack us or attack the belts when we walk past them, so I just like to get rid of them. They don't respawn, so you only have to do it once. They drop 15 to 45 ore when they die, but only once, so it's pretty negligible. We still need other resources, particularly coal, so a group of volunteers are working together to farm some more coal. Working together significantly reduces the amount of damage you take, and thus the amount of fish you need. With a large enough belt blanket, a sufficient stream of ammo, and a couple of turrets, the automated farmers were working well. Almost as good as actual miners. Just hundreds of times less efficient, and with no capacity for modules or mining upgrades. Even still, it was automated, meaning we could afford to sit in the main factory area and just let things slowly produce. After playing for nearly 4 hours straight, and with things finally automated, we decided to take a short meal break. I built this little whirligig for my engineer to have fun on while I got some food. We had this convenient cliff near the coal biters, which let us farm coal without taking as much DPS, and saving on a lot of fish. Finally, after 4 hours, we unlock Logistics Science. And we start to automate coal. In the meantime, some of my volunteers farm from other bases by hand. The turrets demand more and more ammo, and more of our iron just goes into ammo production. Well, didn't expect that. Nests absorb pollution and use it to spawn biters. And they also spawn biters when a military structure or unit, like a turret or a player, is near. So while I'm smelting some stone bricks, I might as well do it near a base. Though the turrets alone may already be capping out the maximum spawns via threat, and the pollution is only adding maybe one biter per couple minutes. As you can see from our production graphs, we're not producing a whole lot, pollution or otherwise. Bricks can be used to build paths to make us move around quicker, though it takes a lot of them. We had to abandon our iron ore outpost to conserve ammo. But this is an iron ore outpost, i.e. the ore that makes the ammo, so that should be some pretty big foreshadowing of how well the current strategy is going at this point. Indeed, you can see we have here 5 whole assemblers just for ammo production. Almost all the iron just goes back into producing ammo to get more iron. We barely make any progress on anything. I used some of the stone bricks to upgrade these pipe walls to actual walls, which use no iron and are stronger and just all around better. It's about this point where we start to think about biter evolution and the implications of that. Even these small biters are barely iron positive. Medium biters have much higher health and have damage reduction to physical damage, so they're going to require a lot more ammo to kill. And if they don't drop more ore when they die, they'll definitely be very iron negative. And it turns out, looking at the mod description, they don't. There are also modifiers in one of the mod's files, and everything is set to drop the same. So that's going to spell huge problems for us. There is some hope that maybe they didn't evolve, but spoilers, they do. We need to think of a new strategy going forward if we're going to survive. Luckily, even when medium biters start spawning, they will start out rare, but will continue to become more common. The evolution factor is increased by 3 factors: time, pollution created, and nests destroyed. Obviously, nests destroyed is going to be very low for us for the most part. Pollution created is, unfortunately, also pretty low for us since everything's such a crawl. However, time is becoming a big issue. It's a very slow process, but they will continue to slowly evolve. And once we hit 20% evolution, medium biters will start to spawn and start to be a huge drain on our resources. More and more will spawn as the evolution continues to rise. Both bullets and punching are going to become unsustainable. We needed to research new military techs, so I started research back up again. A problem with these automated farmers is that if they don't get sufficient ammo at any time, they can be quickly overrun and destroyed. And so we lost our coal outpost. You lose a bunch of resources this way, and then fixing them back up is another challenge. Also, unlike regular miners, you can't throttle them in any way. They will consume the amount of ammo they need, no matter what, so long as they're up, whether you need that much of that resource or not. It's always a fine balancing act on where to place the turrets. You want to get them as close as possible so you aggro as many biters as you can, without putting them so close that they end up shooting the nests. We've upgraded the outpost just a little bit here. It seems to be working really well. Here you can see how much of our iron is going into ammo, and just how much ammo is being used. Of the 2.9 thousand iron plates being produced, 2.7 thousand of them are going into ammo production, and then nearly all that ammo is immediately being consumed. Finally, after hours, we get a new tech. And automated inserters. And we finally automate logistics science. And it only took almost 7.5 hours. It feels like a miracle, but we are finally producing some resources. We even got an achievement for it and everything. I head out west to do some more hand mining, getting some more iron ore. I think the patterns the biters make sometimes are really pretty. It's like a little dance. Except with more biting, and more dying, and maybe more or less fish. Eventually everyone joins in on the fun. This is a much larger base than the one near spawn, with a lot more nests, meaning a lot more biters, and thus a lot more ore. By working together, we're able to get way more ore per second here, while also massively reducing our fish use. It's a long walk back, but we return with a huge bounty of iron ore. I start crafting some grenades, which can kill massive amounts of biters in a single blast, and so they can be extremely resource efficient. And my heavy armor ensures that I can use them without worrying about wasting fish. Even though the nests spawn a constant stream of biters to fight our turrets, they also spawn biters from pollution, which gather into attack groups. If the rally point for the group isn't in aggro range of our turrets, that attack group can build up and then launches a wave of biters at some part of our base, which may or may not be defended. So we need to set up the occasional turret here and there around the base, just to make sure these attack groups are dealt with. We eventually decide that these copper nests are more of a problem than they're worth, since they contaminate our much more valuable iron ore mining. So we're going to take out the copper nests, trying to keep all the iron nests intact. We can also use this chance to get rid of the worms. Not that they're necessarily a problem, but I think it's always nice to be rid of them anyway. The grenades are really helpful here because of the splash damage, although the nests have pretty high explosion resistance. The nests also drop some ore when they die, but since they only do it one time, it's really not all that important in the grand scheme of things. This will also raise the evolution factor a little bit, but not by too much. The downside of using grenades is the occasional friendly fire. And with that, now only iron biters should spawn. Of course, now that we destroyed the starter copper, we need a new source of copper, so we set up this small outpost near the old iron outpost. In the early game, we really don't need that much copper, so this small outpost is enough for now. Though if you look carefully, you can see the occasional bit of copper ore fall into the lake instead of onto the belt. With resources now automatically flowing in, we slowly continue to make progress on research. I decide to set up some furnaces to smelt some ore at what will become our West Iron outpost. I even set up some inserters and boxes. Coal is not far from here, so we can smelt the ore on location and then bring the pre-cooked plates back to base. I even gave the outpost its own small power plant. We'll see how long it lasts, completely undefended, with that copper biter base so close by. The outpost is coming along nicely. It's in the shape of a rocket. The thing we build to win the game, of course. We laid out this ghost belt, so we know where we can stand to maximize biter spawning without getting shot by any worms. Finally, cars! We can use them as fast mobile chests for ferrying ores and such, as long as we can avoid rocks and trees, of course, and the occasional biter. The outpost is now semi-automated, with some of the collected ore going into ammo production on site. I then finish a fuel belt to the outpost power plant. The West Iron outpost is starting to look really good. Shame about the other one. I decide to try and fix it. It's always difficult to build things while things are attacking you while you're doing it, but that's just the nature of this mod. I also fixed the copper outpost nearby. Military science unlocked. After about 10.5 hours. It was around then that everyone was ready to stop for the day. We had played for nearly 10.5 hours straight. Progress was gruelingly slow, but we had made some. But biter evolution had continued this whole time, and the threat of medium biters grew ever larger on the horizon. We needed a military breakthrough if we were going to survive. But could we get it in time? Find out in the next episode.